Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Because I Have Thoughts. I'm Dr. T, and today I'm going to share my thoughts on relationships. I hope you all had a great Memorial Day weekend, but the holidays definitely causes us to reevaluate and assess some of our relationships, whether those relationships are professional, family related, friends, or even spouses or partners. We definitely tend to reassess relationships as we go into holidays. We think about who we're going to hang out with, who we're going to invite if we're hosting, what those interactions are going to be like. But we definitely think about the relationships we have, the ones we're in, the ones we've lost when it comes to holidays. So since we're on the tail end of Memorial Day weekend, I thought I'd talk about relationships. As I've gone through life, I find that one of the biggest challenges people have, including me, are relationships. Whether they are, again, professional, friends, family, a spouse, partner, whatever the title may be in the relationship, we are all challenged in some area as it applies to relationships. As relationships are one of the most challenging things in our lives, we need to think about what's causing us to have conflict in that area. I mean, there are other obstacles. There's money, there is religion, there's politics, but today we're just going to talk about relationships. And all of those things influence how you relate to one another and how you engage one another. But we're just going to talk about the most prevalent things that I feel like and that I've experienced or I've heard, or just my thoughts on how we engage in many different relationships. There are many different disruptors to relationships. There are so many elements that influence our ability or lack thereof to maintain healthy relationships. I think some of the most prevalent ones and obvious ones that are associated mostly with Gen Z and millennials, but does not mean that it doesn't affect Gen X and baby boomers, is social media, the advancement of technology, gaming, pornography, reality TV. I think we all have a portion of us that is addicted to escapism, which those things fuel and comfort us when we want to escape. We want an opportunity to escape our real lives, our real problems, anything that is uncomfortable for us. We go to escapism, which is scrolling all day on social media, vegging out in front of the TV to watch reality TV. Even if you're just watching cooking shows back to 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 back. Those are all things that cause escapism and disassociates you from reality. Now, things that happen prior to the technological advancement, which would be secrecy, dishonesty, unrealistic expectations, bad communication, and delusion of grandeur. Those things are associated with the Gen X, which is my generation, and baby boomers. We are taught to live in secrecy, to not share what's going on in our homes, what's truly going on in our lives. The quintessential answer to every question is, I'm fine, I'm good. When you're not fine and you're not good, you're being dishonest. So all of those things can break down any relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it is family. That dishonesty just brews inside of us, and it manifests in different ways. Remember, if you watch the emotional safety episode, I talked about that the anger that I was challenged with, some of that was geared towards the fact that I came up in a time where secrecy was a huge component of the relationships in my life. So we have to think through that as we relate to one another and as we engage one another in relationships. So when you combine social media, porn, gaming, reality television, the need to escape with secrecy, dishonesty, unrealistic expectations, bad communication, and delusions of grandeur, that's where we are right now, where everybody is having problems in relationships. Because when the secrecy, dishonesty, unrealistic expectations, bad communications, and delusion of grandeur did not get resolved with the Gen X, my generation, and the baby boomers, it just compounded everything that came along with Gen Z and the millennials with social media, porn, gaming, reality television, and escapism. So if you're not being honest about small things, you're not going to be honest about big things. So if you are addicted to porn or addicted to gaming or addicted to reality TV, if you grew up with a Gen X or baby boomer parent, you didn't gain the tools to be honest about the fact of how those things are impacting you. And then that infiltrates how we relate to one another. It's so hard to be in a relationship with someone who's being dishonest because it breaks down the trust. You don't know what to trust. Your reality becomes distorted of like what's real, what's fake. I'm not really sure, which is a huge problem in our ability to have healthy relationships today. And I am not an expert on how to foster healthy relationships. I'm still learning and growing in this area myself. I think sometimes the environment does not foster a safe space to have healthy conversation and healthy communication, which makes it even more challenging. And sometimes you have to excuse yourself. Now, I personally have definitely ghosted people, which I am not proud of. It's just an area that I'm growing in with regards to having healthy conflict. But definitely it impacts my ability to have healthy relationships. But I think honesty is a huge component, and creating an environment where honesty can happen is important when you're establishing relationships. I think social media has definitely distorted our idea of what friendship is, especially with the whole friending component where you engage people, you block people. That's huge now. Like, oh, I have 170 people blocked. Like, that's ridiculous to me, and it's quite immature. Now, I do understand that there are definitely some times where blocking is necessary because I was watching something or listening to a podcast recently, and someone put in to perspective what the whole following thing is, and it communicates like, hey, I want you to be engaged in my everyday life. And though some of the stuff we post on social media, well, most of the stuff that's posted on social media is a glorified version of your life, it's still your life. So when you follow someone, or you accept a follow, or you allow someone to follow you or friend you, you are saying or communicating, hey, yes, I want you to be a part of my life in this capacity. So I think that matters in two folds. One, it creates a distorted view to the person who is friending you. Like, hey, we're friends because I am important enough to you that you want to include me in your everyday life or in the big moments of your life, because most people just post big moments of their lives on social media. But then it also creates this distorted relationship, this distorted expectation of what the relationship should or can be, where that person feels closer to you than they really are. A couple of years ago, I did a presentation at Spelman College, and it included a a relationship portion. And I'll put that graphic up, that people need to be in particular categories as it applies to your relationship. I feel like it gives us a realistic view on the relationships in our lives. And I think communication is key in relationships. You can communicate to people where you are in the relationship and what your expectations are in the relationship. This diagram helps you define the relationships in your life. It gives you clarity. It gives the people that you're in a relationship with clarity, and helps you better understand how you can navigate those relationships when you have parameters in place. So the three categories that I talked about was acquaintances, associates, and friends, which you'll see the diagram. If you're listening on Spotify, maybe I'll put the diagram in the discussion portion, or I'm sorry, in the description of the podcast. I'm not really sure if I can do that. I'm a little tech savvy, but not a lot, so I'll figure that out. or maybe I'll just make that the image that you see when you click on this particular episode. But the diagram clearly orchestrates your circle of friends, your circle of acquaintances, your circle of associates, and how you can define those. Here are my definitions. You know, you do you, you figure it out. But through all of my experience and all of my educational background, here is what I have determined with regards to relationships. Now, this is just for friends, acquaintances, and associates. Family is a different discussion, and spouses or partners is a different discussion as well. But just with regards to friends, associates, and acquaintances. So first we're going to start with the larger circle, which would be your acquaintances. These are people that are in proximity to you, but they don't necessarily have a intimate relationship with you. They may not know your kid's name or your spouse's name, or if you're single, they may know what kind of car you drive, but may not know where you live. They don't know specific details about you, even on the surface level. They just probably know your name. If they're in proximity to you, they may be your neighbor, so they may know where you live. Or they may work with you, so they may know where your office is. An acquaintance could also be the guy that services your car. The guy that services my car, his name is Aaron. But he's an acquaintance. He doesn't know anything about me besides my car, the mileage on my car, when it needs to be serviced, and my name. Well, he knows my address because it's in the computer, but other than that, that's it. Then you have associates. The associate circle is the medium circle in the middle of the diagram. Your associates, you have similar things in common. Like, for instance, I'm in a writer group. I'm actually in 2 writer groups. So those writer groups are my associates. They know a little bit about me because of what I've written and what I've shared. One writer group, they know where I live because it's in proximity to where I live. It's in my neighborhood. The other writer group is virtual, so they know what state I live in. They know minimum details about me, so they know the surface stuff about me. And then we have something in common. We're all writers. If you're married, or you're a mom, your associates may be the parents of the other kids that play sports with your kids. So if your kid is a soccer player, the other soccer moms would be your associates. Friends are those people that know those intimate details about you. They know where the bodies are buried. They know all the secrets that you don't want nobody else to know. Friends are there when you need them. They're supportive. Now, your associates can be supportive because I've had projects where my associates will come and support me, which I truly appreciate. And my associates support me on this platform, so I truly appreciate that. Your friends also do that as well. Your friends show up for you. The support is mutual. You show up for them. There's honest communication. You probably talk to your friends regularly. I know I talk to my friends at least weekly, once a week, some of them more than others. But they are in my inner circle. So if I'm having a bad day, my friends are the people that I will call, like, I'm not in a good space. I need to communicate that, and I need a safe space to share what I'm feeling with no judgment. So those are what friends are. I think that in every area of your life, it requires honesty, though, at any level, whether you're acquaintances, associates, or friends, no matter what the category. Even families, and especially spouses, requires honesty. So no matter what the title is of the relationship, a key component is honesty. Honesty has been lost. It has been buried. It has been watered down and diluted, definitely because of social media. We present one life to the world and we're living another life behind closed doors. And I'm not saying that you should put all of your business out on social media. I do not believe in that. You will never catch me doing that. I just think that if you're going to live a life in front of the camera, be honest about what's happening in front of the camera. You don't have to share everything, but at least be honest. And I'm not asking you to be transparent. I'm just asking you to be honest. You can honestly say, yeah, I don't want to share that. And I can respect that. I have friends who have gone through things, and I will say, hey, do you want to talk about that? And they'll be like, no, I really don't. And I'll be like, okay, that I respect that. I'm just letting you know that if you want to talk about it, I'm here. But if you don't want to talk about it, I respect that too. So I just think that honesty is a huge component. Honesty and communication. Those two go hand in hand. Let me go back in my notes because there were um, 4 things that I wanted to touch on, and I don't want to miss them. One is that honesty requires effective communication. So the 4 components that you need to drastically change how you're relating to people, besides putting them in the right category, which I just shared, is honesty, transparency, and vulnerability. I feel like those go hand in hand. Mutual respect and realistic expectations. I cannot hammer that in enough. Realistic expectations. These are essential components to maintaining healthy relationships because honesty requires effective communication. Some people, and I used to be one of those people that would be like, oh, you just don't want to hear the truth. Well, how you deliver the truth matters. You can't just say off the cuff mean stuff and then expect people not to react to that. Like, I get that you want to be honest and truthful, but you can say it in a nice manner. You don't have to be rude to be honest. Those two do not go hand in hand. Transparency and vulnerability fosters humility. The more vulnerable you are and the more transparent you are, the more humble you become. And that also is after you've done the first step of being honest. You can't have transparency without honesty. You can't have vulnerability without humility. All of those go together. And then the last is mutual respect. Respect that someone can disagree with you. I have experienced so many people that need to be right. And they feel like if they're not right, then that's a weakness. That is not a weakness because no one is right all the time. We're just not. We don't know everything. You don't know everything. Nobody on this planet knows everything. So being wrong is not a bad thing. I a lot of times in conversations will preference what I'm saying, like, hey, I could be completely wrong about this, but here's what I'm thinking and feeling. That gives other people the opportunity to disagree with you in a healthy manner. Some people are just so disagreeable that you're just like, whoa, that's a lot. Or they just need to be right all the time. And that's a lot. A lot of times in those conversations, I will let you have it. I'm like, oh, you need to be right so bad. Go ahead. You got it. Because in my soul, in my spirit, I know it's not right, but you need to be right in this moment. So I'm going to let you have it. Because it's just not worth the conflict for me. But honesty is important. Like, I do think that there are situations where things can be so volatile that even healthy honesty can't be fostered. I've been in situations like that where I've communicated honesty and the person on the other end is so visceral and so volatile that it's like, oh, okay, it don't matter what I say, you just want to be mad. Got it. Point taken. But that doesn't mean that you give up on honest communication. It's definitely necessary for having healthy communication and having healthy relationships. Being honest about where you are in the relationship, how you're experiencing the relationship, and what your expectations are quintessential components to healthy relationships. I cannot hammer that in enough. And as a Black woman, I will say that that has been difficult for me on a personal note. It's hard to dig through all of the bias and the Black female stereotypes and minutia you're swimming through to get to the truth of who you are and what and how you show up. I know that sometimes there are places where people, and even in relationships, people have preconceived notions about who I am and how I present myself and how I'm going to show up. And it's sometimes really, really hard to dig through what those expectations were. I'm a normal person. I put on my pants just like everybody else does. What is the expression? One leg at a time, just like everybody else does. And I'm not angry all the time. I am nice. I am reasonable. I am fun to be around. Heck, I'm a riot. I can be a riot. But building relationships as a Black woman has definitely been challenging in so many areas, especially professionally. I also think that in friendships for Black women is challenging because we're all digging through the stereotypes of the fact that Black women don't get along. We're always in competition with one another. I am not in competition with any Black woman. It is always, always, always my intention to uplift every woman, but specifically Black women, because I'm a Black woman. And when I'm in those rooms, when I'm in those areas, I am advocating for women, specifically Black women, the majority of the time. And I have been in situations where a Black woman has told me, like, oh, I thought you was going to come in and try to take my job. Girl, no, I'm trying to get both of us a seat at the table. So we sitting there together. If we all work together, then the table is ours. So I just wanted to come in and talk about and share my thoughts on so many relationships. I feel like the spousal marriage relationship has to be another whole nother episode. That in itself will take 20 minutes. I just wanted to touch on in this episode my thoughts on friendships and the categories that those relationships should be in with regards to friends, associates, and acquaintances, and then in corporate relationships or professional relationships, how to conduct yourself there. Things that I look for in relationships is definitely honesty, mutual respect, healthy communication, loyalty, reliability. Like, if I'm supporting you, you should support me. I had one friendship where I was carrying the heavy load of the friendship. I was always sending cards on birthdays and holidays, sending gifts, and always reaching out and saying, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. Hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. And we have been friends since our teenage years. And I just wasn't getting that reciprocated. Like, if I show up for you, I do expect you to show up for me. It should be mutual. So when you stop showing up for me, I'm going to disengage. And I'm going to be honest. Sometimes, like I said, I have been a ghoster and I'm working on that. Ghosting is unhealthy for both parties because it just goes unresolved. So I would say to definitely try not to do that as much as you possibly can. But I do realize that sometimes the environment is not healthy enough to not ghost a person. Or sometimes you've communicated so many times, like, hey, this isn't working for me. This needs to change. Or can we talk through this? And then that person is just not receptive of it. Then you just deuces. I feel like I've talked enough. I hope that you got something constructive out of my rambling on relationships. I have no book recommendations for you guys today. Is that a shocker? It should be a shocker. But if you are looking to work on yourself and better yourself in relationships, please refer to the emotional safety episode that I did and the book recommendations in that, because I feel like once you start working on yourself, once you improve your relationships will improve. I assure you. And then you can decipher which category people go in. Once you get healthy, you start seeing, oh, you need to be moved to the associate category. You're not a friend, you're an associate. That was so enlightening to me once I started my journey on being healthy emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. I'm still working on the physically thing because, you know, I'm a woman of a certain age and some changes going on in my body. I'm trying to figure that out. If you watch my birthday episodes, you saw that too. But definitely mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I've been working on that, and it definitely helped me. I use the word definitely a lot. I'm sorry, y'all, but it helped me to assess who goes in what category and better understand what those categories are and better understand what healthy relationships look and then fostering those in my life. I'm a very loyal person, and I am big on communication. I try really, really hard to communicate honestly if the relationship can foster that. And I am trying to be more aware of what impacts my relationships and what makes them unhealthy. So, again, I hope that you gain something from this. I hope you take some time to assess who you are in relationships. I hope you take some time to assess the relationships you have and how you're engaging and how those other parties are engaging, and that you all can come to a resolution that is beneficial to all of you. As we proceed in life, one of the great understandings that I have assessed on my journey is that we all struggle with some relationship in our lives, whether it's with our kids, whether it's with our spouse, whether it is with our parents, friends, family, co-workers, bosses. We all have to engage in relationships in some capacity, and having a better understanding of yourself and how to categorize those relationships is a huge help. So, thank you for tuning in again. Please like, subscribe, and follow. You can catch me on drtlcsquared.com/voice. That's my website. There's other things on that website. Please go on there, look around. I offer lots of services, including a mentoring program. So if you like what you're hearing here and you just want to assess some parts of your life, please feel free to dig around on my website. Again, that's drtlcsquared.com. If you're looking for the podcast, it's drtlcsquared.com/voice. Like, subscribe, and follow. I'm Dr. T. This is another episode of Because I Have Thoughts. I'm out. Peace.